Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode 114, with today's guest, Nathan Chan from Foundr magazine.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
My name's Adam Franklin, and you are listening to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Thank you for joining me today. This is the show for people like us, like you and me, that love marketing on the web. I'm going to take you behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments so that we can reveal the truth about what really works, and we'll look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. This podcast is brought to you by the book that Toby and I wrote, which is also called Web Marketing That Works. And I have a special gift for you, our listener, and that is the 33 free marketing templates. They come with our book, but you don't need to get the book to get the templates. That is our gift to you. So if you head to bluewiremedia.com.au/book, those templates are all yours. The guest today is Nathan Chan, who is the publisher of Foundr magazine, and he is also the creator of the Instagram domination course. I've had my eye on Nathan Chan for a while now, and I'm so pleased he could come on the show. We actually connected a couple of years back via a mutual friend, and it was around the time that Tim Ferriss was coming to Australia, and we're going to talk more about that on the show. But Nathan is firstly awesome at connecting with influencers and getting high-profile people onto his podcast and featured in his Foundr magazine. He's had people like Sir Richard Branson, Arianna Huffington, Seth Godin, Gary Vee, a whole host of amazingly successful and high-profile entrepreneurs and business founders. So that's one string to his bow. The other thing that he is absolutely killing it at the moment is Instagram. And he's gone from brand new to having over 500,000 Instagram followers. But what's even more impressive is that he's grown his email list to over 100,000 email subscribers, primarily off the back of what he is doing on Instagram. So if you think 100,000 email subscribers, 500,000 Instagram followers, that's about a 20% conversion rate. So really, really impressive stuff. And we are going to dive into all of those things on the show today. So with that introduction, let's head over to the interview. It's Adam Franklin here, and I am joined on the line by Nathan Chan from Foundr magazine. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, bro. How are you doing?
Really well, thank you. Now, you've had a blockbuster 2015. What's been the highlight of your year so far?
Oh, wow. That is a great question. Yeah, because we're in December now, and one thing I do actually at the end of the year is reflect. Wow, there's been some cool things I've done this year. Big highlight probably would be maybe, interviewing some people that I really looked up to, and then also, I guess, considering them peers, like interviewed Seth Godin and also Tim Ferriss and also Tony Robbins this year. Also caught up with Seth Godin for coffee when I was in NYC about 6 months ago. What else? I guess another big highlight is we didn't really do a pivot in the business, but we've kind of just added another product and it's really going gangbusters right now. That's been a big one. We're kind of playing in a space that I never pictured that we'd be playing in. That's been a big one.
So what's that? Is that the Instagram program?
Yeah, it's the Instagram course. So man, I had no idea that when I first started Foundr, 2.5 years ago, I had no idea, dude, that we'd get into information products, doing online video courses and training and stuff like that. I thought we'd just keep doing the magazine. And yeah, it's just really blown me away about just the amount of case studies and the amount of questions and how much more our community wanted. And just I guess, how much of a powerful industry that is, the online education industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And I just had no idea. When I first started, I had no idea, and my eyes have been really opened up. So yeah, those are a few things that, I guess have been kind of cool.
That's a pretty stellar year there, Nathan. Interviewing those big names and launching a program. You're right. I mean, I've certainly found the online education industry huge, and we pivoted ourselves 2 or 3 years back and are now basically exclusively online education and business training. But it's like it seems like there's this whole industry being disrupted, and schools and universities and corporate training programs aren't the only way to go now. And all the people that are doing stuff online like yourself, that you can't just go to a uni course and learn Instagram because it's so cutting edge and it changes so often that you're right on the forefront of it, that people are keen to learn that information. And it's so cool now that I think anyway, any of us can package up our knowledge and put it into a training course and sell it to the audience that we've been building up through content marketing. It's a really cool time to be alive and to be running a business.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing that's really powerful with, I guess, info products and that kind of space is it's extremely scalable. Like you only have to, don't get me wrong, like we've done many different updates on the Instagram course, but in essence, you're only creating it once. It's like software as a service. You can do recurring as well with info, but, you only have to sell it once. You don't have to create it once, and you can sell it infinite amount of times. And, the support around the actual product is, you'll need some support there, but it's not as heavy demanding as a SaaS or, if you've got to sell like a piece of software. And then another thing is that through the internet, you can sell to the world, and you can do things like, using, stuff like the stuff that you teach, like the power of building your email newsletter community and, just sending out emails and letting people know about cool stuff that you're launching. Like, everyone, I'm sure a lot of people made a lot of money and did some cool stuff during the Black Friday weekend, Cyber Monday weekend. And, you can do some stuff with webinars. It's just such a powerful business model, I think, just from not only just a profitability standpoint, but from a scalability standpoint, and also, just a connecting standpoint where you can connect with all these people around the world and teach them like something really cool.
Yeah, it's unreal. Hey, you mentioned Tim Ferriss as one of your guests on your show and on your magazine recently. And I was just reflecting back because when Tim Ferriss came out to Australia, and I know we spoke privately many years ago prior to him coming out, but there was something that Tim Ferriss said in his presentation that Toby and I went to in Sydney. And that was, take a look at what you're actually spending your own money on. And we looked at what we're spending our own money on, and it was education. And it was predominantly online education. And we thought, man, look at us. We're a small business. We're wanting to learn. We're wanting to grow. And this is what we're spending our money on. And then it was kind of like this realization, this penny dropped. And we thought, man, we should just be focusing much more exclusively on packaging up and selling the IP that we've built. Because as you say, it can be built once with a few updates here and there, but sold multiple times, as opposed to back in those days, that was like the final days of us being an agency where you would do some work once, you'd hopefully get paid, and then you'd be back on the hamster wheel looking for another client and another project to do. And that was like Tim Ferriss's chat, his presentation was perfect timing because we've gone, man, let's just do something differently. And it was unreal. So I've certainly learned a lot, from him, and that timing was brilliant. But as you reflect back on some of the people you've interviewed this year, what are some of the big things that you've learnt either from the actual interviews or observing and interacting with them yourself?
That's a really good question. Like, dude, I've done so many interviews this year. It's pretty crazy, man. I've had some big realizations. I think a big one that's like front of mind at the moment, but I can't really draw it. Like, I can draw it from some of the interviews, but maybe not some of those big guys, is if you want to grow your business, I've found that, you have to diversify your product suite or the, whether it's your services or your products. I think, it's just so much power. Like, it's so obvious, but I don't know, it's a big realization I had. It's like, okay, we've got, one Instagram course, how can we scale this thing up? Like because for a long time, man, for at least a good year and a half, I was thinking just magazine. And, the magazine's doing great, but the thing is, it's like it is still an entry level product. It's like $2.99 a month, and
$2.99 or $299.
No, $2.99.
Just checking.
$2.99 a month, auto direct debit. And, I just realized, like, wow, if you look at all these other companies, they all diversify and they have many different products and they have, upsells, one-click upsells. That's something that I never even knew. Like Amazon are doing it flat out, man. Vistaprint, they're doing it heavily. When you purchase your business cards, they'll try and, tell you to get, do you want to put your logo on a mouse pad? Do you want to put it on a mouse? Do you want to get a flag? Like all this different stuff. Like it's just so powerful. So I think it's one thing to go out there and try and look for more customers for that one product or one service that you sell, but it's another thing to actually work with the lowest hanging fruit. And, your lowest hanging fruit is you've already got, if you are out there and you do have a service and a model and you, I guess, solving a certain problem, like there are still other things you can do. And that's been a big realization for me. I guess, with Tony Robbins, one of the biggest takeaways was just the power of compounding interest. That was a big takeaway. Ever since I did that interview with him, I'm always making sure I just have that one account where it's just compounding. And then another one was with Tim Ferriss. Probably another big takeaway was, and this is kind of like a basic one, but he told me this story about, when he first got started, he started this online company selling products, and he went to the ATM and he thought someone must have left their receipt there, and he thought that he must have got paid a ridiculous amount of money. And we just all start from somewhere. Like you look at Tim Ferriss, he just interviewed Jamie Foxx, and he does some crazy stuff now, but we all start from somewhere. Yeah, there's a few things that come to mind, but yeah, it's kind of difficult, to be honest.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people have heard of these big names, and when I think about interviewing somebody like that, I get butterflies in my stomach, and I know a lot of listeners will be thinking, man, that's cool, but what's it actually like? Like, how do you reach out to them, and how nervous are you, and how do you sort of make the conversation or those interactions more comfortable and more casual, I guess? Because at the end of the day, they're humans, but they're often put up on these pedestals. What's your take on that?
Well, I think, at the end of the day, I just put myself in these situations where I just have to get it done. I just got no choice. I want to do this interview. I know our audience would love to hear, what this person has to say. I know they're doing cool stuff. So I'd go out and start pitching. So, one thing with Foundr is I'm trying very, very hard to, I guess, produce content that a lot of people may not, be able to produce in terms of the kind of caliber of interviews that we bring on. And we use the magazine as leverage for that. So now I've kind of set this standard. We interviewed Richard Branson, and that was a big break for us. And then we've kind of just gone on to interview all these other super successful entrepreneurs. And now that's kind of something that our audience expects. And that's kind of how people spread the word. So now we have this expectation that, Foundr interviews hard to reach people, and we just get these amazing guests on that are super successful. And then from there, what they've achieved and the insights they have, it kind of just does the work for us. It's just great content. So in saying all of that, I have to be super organized, Adam, super, super organized. For example, right now I'm pitching for 2016 front covers, and we've already got up until July booked. So, and these are all big, hard to reach, big time influencers in our niche. We've got, one of the founders of Y Combinator, Jessica Livingston, Gary Vaynerchuk, all these big time influencers that, if we can align ourselves with these influencers, it's going to build a lot more trust and credibility for the brand, because we're still quite new. So, I'm always pitching well in advance, anywhere between, 6 to 12 months ahead of time. And then another thing I'm doing is I'm always looking to see if they're releasing any books in the near future, which is very, very powerful, because when somebody's looking for press, they're going to be more likely to want to come onto your magazine, be interviewed for your magazine, do any press stuff, because it's for us, if we were, doing a launch of our product, we're going to, look around to see what podcasts we can do. We can look around to see what kind of media features we can do. So that's another thing that you always want to be doing. And then, to answer your question, I just line these up and put myself in the position. Was I shit nervous when I interviewed Seth Godin? Yeah, I pitched him the night before, I actually interviewed him. I went to bed and I pitched him at 11:30. And then, as soon as I woke up in the morning, he was like, yeah, can you do this in an hour or so? And I was like, yeah, okay. And then, jumped on, and, I was super nervous. I didn't even wasn't even really that prepared, but I just made it work. Same with Tony Robbins. I remember he stood me up maybe like 2 or 3 times, and I was even thinking to myself, I can't wait to get this over and done with, because I was just so nervous, and it was a really big deal. But you just kind of put yourself in that position, and the more and more you do, you just kind of build that confidence. A really cool thing that I heard once is Eric Clapton. He plays to sometimes hundreds of thousands of people now, and what's fascinating is someone asked him, do you ever get nervous before you go out on stage? And he said, yeah, look, I always have that feeling inside, whether it's 10 people or 100,000 people. But, the more you do, the more you learn to manage it.
And it's actually a pretty cool feeling I've found, certainly with say public speaking, where it's normal to get nervous before you go up on stage or before you do a big interview. But it's actually a nice feeling which you can't get too many other places. And I think if you learn to say harness it and see that feeling as a positive, like positive butterflies, that it's bringing you energy and you're about to do your best work because you're focused and you've got that adrenaline going. It's a completely different way of framing it than going, holy moly, I'm terrified here. What if everything just goes pear-shaped? It's just a slightly different twist on it. I really like how you put yourself in that position where you've just got to get it done, as you say, and it's cool. It happens. You build the confidence for the next, but it's really inspiring how you've done that.
Oh, thank you, man. I have to say, too, the feeling you get after the interview, especially when it's a great interview, it's just the best ever, hey?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think what you're good at, too, following up with Seth when you went to New York City, I think that's cool because I often view these interviews as a great experience to uncover insights and knowledge and share a conversation and publish that in a magazine or podcast format. But also the first step of a relationship then too, isn't it? And you've now got access to people that previously you wouldn't have had, or you've obviously earned, but that other people don't have access to it. It's really cool what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, man.
Let's shift gear and have a talk about Instagram at the moment, because I know you are doing very cool things there. You've got hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram, but more importantly, you're actually converting those followers into email subscribers, and you've got over 100,000 email subscribers. Talk us through a little bit about what's going on there, because Instagram's like the new kid on the block. A lot of people are just getting into it. They're wondering, how do we use it? And you seem to be nailing it. So share with us what you've got there, Nathan.
Yeah, sure thing, Adam. So, the funny thing is with Instagram, so we've been on Instagram for exactly 13 months, and we've gone from 0 to, we will reach 500,000 by the end of this year. So in 14 months, we'll go from 0 to 500,000 followers, and it's just super engaged. Some of our photos now, we get 10,000 likes or 1,000 comments. It's just crazy, right? It's just, Instagram is such an amazing platform purely for the engagement alone. It's just ridiculous. You just get so much engagement. It's really powerful. And what happened was, for 13, 14 months ago, I'll be really clear. I started Foundr while I was working my day job. And that was actually when we first met each other. We caught up on Skype, over 2 years ago. And I was working my day job, man. I just started on the side. And what happened was, I'd left my day job. I built up the magazine and I guess, we were struggling a little bit. Not struggling. We were making enough money to, cover the operating costs of the business. It took me about a year to build that up. And then, I was paying myself a very, very marginal salary, and I was off on my own. And I guess the questions that I was asking is the questions a lot of people ask is how do you get more customers? How do you get more leads? How do you get more sales? How do you get more exposure for your business? How do you get more people hearing and talking about you? And, it took me a while to, find my bearings when I was going solo, because Foundr was my first business. I've never operated or run a business before, and I didn't really know what I was doing. And, I've just kind of worked it all out along the way. And, I was trying many different things during that period. And I went through a 6-month period where it was things were a little, I was just scraping by and things were a little rough. And I had a few friends that were doing some cool stuff on Instagram, but they were in the health niche. So one of them sells superfoods, it packages them up, superfoods, or for your smoothies and all sorts of stuff like that. And he was doing some cool stuff, and he was generating a lot of sales off Instagram. And I remember saying to him, do you think Instagram will work for me? And he's like, oh, probably not. You're an entrepreneur. It's really good for the female niche, for females, and for the health niche. And, I was bringing on an intern. So exactly this time last year, I was looking to bring on an intern just for some extra help. And we had this Instagram account there, and I thought to myself, well, Instagram, it's just one of many social platforms. I guess we should be posting on it, just like we still do to this day for Google Plus, Facebook, and Twitter. I was like, okay, I'll get our intern to just try and work out what's going on with this Instagram thing. And I remember I shot my friend a message and said, just can you give me a few little things that I should do? And he's like, yeah, okay. Here's a couple of things you should do. And I got on there in one night and, I did a couple of posts and did some cool stuff. And, I just saw our sales do a big spike, and I picked it up on Google Analytics. We had more downloads for the magazine, an extra couple hundred downloads for the magazine, and we made an extra few $100s for that day. And I was just like, oh wow, we're onto something here. And that kind of took me down this path to just absolutely battle test the absolute crap out of Instagram. So much to the point that, I know how to use it as a massive lead generation machine and rapidly grow your business. And what happened was, at first I just used the Instagram for at least the first 4 months just to build up the magazine, and that doubled the magazine. And then I was like, well, okay, everyone says, the money's in the list. If I capture that person's email address, I can try and, take them through a sales process and tell them about the magazine. Then I can tell them about other cool stuff we've got going on. Then I can tell them about future products or services, and I can start building that relationship even further. And I just started pushing. So, with Instagram, you only have one clickable link in your bio. So instead of pushing straight to the magazine, like the Apple landing page, I was pushing to, just the free Branson issue. And we offer that on the podcast, same landing page, same deal. And I just started really, really crushing it with the list building. And, this time last year, our email list was 3,000. And now it's, in a year's time, since we've been doing this, focusing on list building, please keep in mind, a big proportion of it has come from Instagram, but not all of it. Some from our podcast, some from our blog, some from guest posts, some from just site, hits on our website. We get about 60,000 hits a month on our website, but the majority proportion has come from Instagram, and our email list is closer to 120,000 now. And so that's been a massive channel for us. And we can do some really powerful things now because we've got a massive email newsletter community, and we've got more followers on Instagram in the business niche than Fast Company, Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, Inc. Magazine. So we're a massive influencer in the business, startup, entrepreneurship, motivational type space on Instagram, which has really, really helped spread the word for the brand, which has just given us such accelerated growth.
That's sweet. So you're doing, say, an Instagram post, and then is there a call to action then to go to the bio link to download the Branson issue? Is there laid out as clearly as that, or are people just seeing the Instagram post and finding their way to, say, your download link? What's the process that you've got there?
Yeah, so I'll start walking you through some actionable things that people in your audience can take away to actually start growing their Instagram account and actually start, whether they want to build their email list or get more sales or whatever. So there's a few things I identified with Instagram. The engagement's really hot. So, I believe it's the best social media platform out there in terms of free customer acquisition. Okay, I want to be really, really clear. If you don't have money and you don't want to pay for leads and sales, then Instagram is amazing. So, I identified that the engagement rates are really, really high. There's a lot of people that are interested in our niche, in the market that we serve. And I also identified the kind of content that works really well. And for us, we found it was quotes. Startup tips, facts, quotes from super successful entrepreneurs seem to work really, really well. And I identified that because other people in our niche serving a similar type audience to us were posting this on other platforms. For example, Success Magazine. They have 2 million, 3 million followers on Facebook, and a lot of what they do is post quotes. And I was quite aware of this. One of my friends, Joel, from addictedtosuccess.com, he's another fellow Australian from Perth. He used to use quotes on Twitter and Facebook also. And also, he used the quotes to get a lot of SEO juice and a lot of organic search traffic. So I knew quotes were powerful, but, I just started posting them on Instagram because it's cool stuff that people in our audience love to see. And it's it's kind of like, how like BuzzFeed do those articles where it's just like crack, like, you just got to read it and it's just like easy to consume and it's like a list post and you can read it in like 2 minutes and you just want to click on it. That's the kind of same thing for us. Like these quotes, they're just like, you can wrap up so much of a message in like a few sentences or just one sentence. You know what I mean? So we found that to be really, really powerful. And then, I worked out that the more we post, the faster we grow. And then I also worked out that, so we post anywhere between 4 to 10 times a day. And then I worked out also that another powerful way to grow is to get other people to share your content. And then I just got really, really aggressive on that. So and there's an acronym for that. It's called S for S, share for share, shout out for shout out, where you want to get as many accounts as you can to shout out your content and mention you in the caption. And I found that to be extremely, extremely powerful too. And, I could sit here and talk about this all day, Adam, but, I also found that people will not click on the link in your bio unless you tell them to. So if you've got a lead magnet like we do right now, like our lead magnet is, how to get your first 10,000 followers on Instagram. It's pretty much like a comprehensive magazine issue focused on Instagram. I worked out that, if we post an image about that lead magnet, like 10x more people will actually click on the link in the bio. People will not do things unless you spell it out for them and tell them to do it. You have to make things super simple. You have to make things super clear, and you have to always remind people of, what you have to offer. Like somebody could be following our account for the past year and they still they might be interested in purchasing the magazine, or they might be interested in downloading the lead magnet, and they've probably seen it like 10 times, so they still don't do anything. So we just softly remind people. And that's why we also post so much content, because it allows us to feed in our little, our own personal ads for like our own paid stuff. Or, how like Gary Vaynerchuk talks about jab, 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 right hook. Because we post so much content, we put in, 8 jabs a day or 4 jabs or 5 jabs a day. It allows us to insert, one little right hook where it asks for the sale or talks about one of our products, talks about the podcast, talks about the magazine, talks about a lead magnet. And, it's still, people will still follow us, and, our feed is not spamming people with telling them to buy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So the jab, 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 right hook concept for the listeners who haven't read Gary Vee's book is that a jab, jab, jab is that when you're being generous and you're giving, 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 and then a right hook is when you're actually asking for something in return. So maybe it's an email opt-in or it's a call to action to buy something. And the whole idea being that the more generous you can be, the more jabs you can do, you earn the right to put in a few right hooks as you go along. Okay, so one of the other areas where you're doing lots of jabbing, aka being very generous, you've just become a contributor for Entrepreneur magazine. And I'm very keen to find out, what were your objectives going into this contributor relationship with Entrepreneur? I mean, there's so many benefits. What was it that appealed to you?
That's a really great question, Adam, and I'm glad you asked, because some people might think, why would you do that? Like some of my friends actually asked me, why are you trying to get into all these publications and become a contributor or get the login so you can start posting on their site? Like, don't you view them as a competitor? Like, you guys serve the same audience or a similar type audience. Why would you do that? And for me, Foundr can only go so far from our own stuff. That's why we try and go on other people's podcasts. That's why we do guest blog posts. That's why we do partnerships. That's why, S for S, shout out for shout out on Instagram works so well, because we're exposing ourselves to other people's audience. And it's the exact same strategy there, Adam. What we do at Foundr, the mission hasn't changed. Whether we sell, a course on Instagram, or we have a membership-based site called Founders Club, which we're about to launch, or whether we produce the magazine or the podcast, or, do stuff on social media on Instagram where we post quotes or epic startup tips, it still goes back to, we want to serve and help equip aspiring novice stage entrepreneurs however we can. So, entrepreneur.com, Fast Company, Forbes, HubSpot, all of these publications, they have access to an audience that we currently don't have. So, the way I see it is, why wouldn't we want to be a guest contributor for them? Not only get, great backlinks because they're a lot more of an authoritative site than us, because they've been around for tens of years, but also to just be exposed to a new kind of audience. And I think, what the coolest thing is around this whole contributor thing is it just brings so much more authority, whether it's for your personal brand. You don't have to do it for your business. You can do it for your personal brand too. But I think there's a little bit of, I guess, the best way I can say it is there's a little bit of bullshit going on where people think that if you get featured in entrepreneur.com or Inc. or Fast Company or Forbes on their website, it must be a big deal. And I know for a fact that, don't get me wrong, it is a big deal and it's a great thing. But I'm just telling you that 99% of the time, those features on those websites are articles written by a contributor, and that's not somebody that's paid. It's not by a staff writer. It's not by a journalist that works for one of these publications. It's a lot of the time, not all the time, but some of the time and a lot of the time, it is people like myself that have a contributor login to Entrepreneur where I go to the top 10 podcasts and say, hey, I want to do a list of the top 10 podcasts. Can you answer these questions? And then I submit an article and then it gets approved. So can you see where I'm going with this, Adam? I think there's a big disconnect where people just don't know that a lot of the contributors on these sites and a lot of the writers are actually just people like you or me. Do you know what I mean? And it took me a while to work this out. But when I did, I was just it was a light bulb moment for me because I was like, okay, well, this allows us to expose ourselves to a new kind of audience. And, if we can do a great job with these publications, we might be able to get a contributor column and our own login so we can produce content when we please for them, where you don't have to keep pitching the editor. And, if we've got any promotions or anything going on, we can just write up an article and seed it out through their network, not only our own network. And I just think it's a massive no-brainer, man. Why wouldn't you want to control the media, in your niche? So that's something that I'm very focused on at the moment. And, we're a content powerhouse. Let's just produce more content, obviously valuable content, but let's get Foundr out there. Let's try and get super aggressive of getting the brand out there and helping as many people as we can. If it's not for our own stuff, but other people's stuff.
Yeah, Dave, mate, that's a very good explanation. You've opened my eyes to some of the possibilities and how it works, and I thank you for that. Now,
you're welcome.
Speaking of getting Foundr magazine out there and the podcast and everything else, where are the best places listeners can go to track down all of your different types of content?
Best place to go would be foundrmag.com, and it's FOUNDR mag.com. And if you'd like more help on Instagram stuff, you can go to foundermag, foundrmag.com/free. We've created an epic ebook that really, really goes in depth around more of this Instagram stuff.
Sweet, mate. And how about Twitter and Instagram?
Twitter, it's just Foundr Mag.
Awesome. Well, Nathan, thank you for joining us on the show today. It's been such an adventure, the call itself, and it's been so fun seeing your journey over the last few years to where you've taken your startup business to now. And I want to thank you and have yourself a great day.
Thank you so much for having me, Adam. It was an absolute pleasure. A ton of fun, man.
Cool. See ya.
Bye.
And that's a wrap for my chat with Nathan Chan. What a go-getter. It's a fascinating journey that he's on, and so many actionable things that we can learn from him. Firstly, in terms of connecting with influencers and overcoming a bit of that fear that might hold us back. But secondly, also on Instagram, I mean, far out to get that many followers and that many email subscribers as a result of that. It's really, really cool. And it's inspired me to lift my game on Instagram, particularly Bluewire Media Instagram account. If you are interested in following, it's at Bluewire_media. And for my personal one, it's Adam_Franklin. So anyway, drop us a line via Instagram if you're keen. And I've actually had a few ideas as I was chatting to Nathan about, sharing our marketing templates on Instagram and actually, sharing like a screenshot of the 3D icon as one of the Instagram posts that we might add into the mix as well. So there's calls to action like every now and again interspersed with all the content posts. Like as Nathan was saying, it's jab, 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 right hook. based on Gary V's philosophy there. Give, and then ask for something. Give, ask for something, but always give more than you expect to receive. And of course, when you do ask for something, it still should be incredibly valuable and really just another step in that journey that you're taking people on from, interacting with your content anonymously for free on, say, Instagram, to then taking that next step, which is signing up with an email address. And then eventually, further down the track, maybe those people will come on a webinar and maybe buy something from you later on. But each step of the way, little baby steps, and that's what Nathan is doing so effectively with his Instagram, to get people to email, to get people to webinars, and to get people into his programs, or subscribing, of course, to his online magazine. So I hope you have found my chat with Nathan useful and valuable. And if you have, I certainly welcome all feedback, positive and negative, or just feedback in general. You can reach me, adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au. And if you enjoyed the show, it would be very much appreciated if you could just take a moment to pop on over to the iTunes review, or the Stitcher review, or the SoundCloud review area, and leave us a review there. It certainly does help our visibility, and it really gives us a lot of encouragement as well. So look, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget you can get your marketing templates from our book, Web Marketing That Works. Head to bluewiremedia.com.au/book, and they are all yours. Thank you for spending time with me on the podcast, and I look forward to seeing you on a future episode. All right, bye.